The 6th-ranked Blue Devils made a trip up to the Dome on Saturday. Duke is undefeated, but who have they really played against? Bellarmine, Vermont, Air Force, Providence. Not anyone particularly tough until this past weekend when Duke edged Denver by 1. Are the Blue Devils for real? Time will tell. As for Syracuse, the 5th-ranked Orange have continued their winning ways. SU rides a 5-game win streak into Saturday's matchup with the Blue and White. The Cuse came off a 6-goal win last weekend over Georgetown. Seems like Syracuse has found its stride since its 2 losses earlier this season. We'll get you set for Saturday's affair between Syracuse and Duke right here on Cuse Countdown. Welcome into Cuse Countdown here inside our CitrusTV studio. I'm Nico Horning, joined alongside Boccio and Griffin, Marcy. And guys, the Syracuse men's lacrosse team seems like they've finally been on a roll and found that stride after a couple of losses earlier in the year, especially in that win over Georgetown after coming home for the first time in 37 days, John.
Yeah, it was an absolutely wild game because Syracuse really wasn't ready, so to say, for what was going to come with this home crowd. It seemed like they kind of forgot at first how crazy the Dome can truly be. It went down 3-1 to start the first quarter, but then rallied all the way back. An 11-1 run would really help them do so. It was a crazy Georgetown loss and an insane Syracuse win at that.
It's a good thing to come home and just rejuvenate your home crowd that's really been backing you all season long inside the Dome. But really what separated it to me was that second quarter where you just dominated 8-3, had some great versatility on offense all across the board. 5 different players scored multiple goals. Michael Leo leading the way with 5, and you did well at the X and in cage. So a great recipe for Syracuse.
5 straight wins for the Orange since those 2 losses against Harvard and Princeton earlier in the season as well. And guys, what stuck out to you offensively? Because they put up 18 goals in this game.
Yeah, I mean, the main thing that stuck out to me offensively was the pace in which they played with. I mean, Syracuse was firing on all cylinders. Finn Thompson contributed a hat trick. Michael Leo had the 5 goals. Joey Spallino was dishing them out like candy. I mean, this team was just clicking the entire game, and that's what mainly worked for him in this one.
It really did, and it started to me at the X. As John Mullen got out there, not only did he win a lot of the face-offs, he got downhill once he started, got Syracuse to get a little bit more momentum in the easier looks on offense, and that allowed Georgetown not to be fully set, and Syracuse really took advantage in spots like that.
Slow start, but Syracuse picked it up later on. And of course, there's got to be a moment of the game that stuck out to you guys in this one. Once Syracuse maybe set the tone a little bit. John, where would you point in this game where Syracuse created some separation?
Well, we talked about that second quarter, but what we're failing to remember is in the first quarter when Syracuse began its comeback, and what really put a cap on the first quarter was this Finn Thompson goal that we're going to show you. Syracuse was down, but not necessarily out, and you have it here. James Carroll gets hit by the turf monster. Finn Thompson scoops it up and fires it right in. That made the game 4-3, and Syracuse never looked back after that. Take another look at it. James Carroll can't split the defenders. In fact, he trips over his own shoelace, and, well, Finn Thompson took advantage, flipped all the momentum, and that was just another one of those goals on part of that 11-1 run that SU had.
That was part where Syracuse started to crawl back a little bit. To me, the part where they put their full foot on the gas was a goal from Joey Spallino off a big face-off win from John Mullen. Let's see it right here. This was the start of a 7-0 run for Syracuse. Mullen easily won it, got some momentum at the X, gets it off to Spallino for just a nice little step-down shot, and he just completely drills it. So that's what really allowed Syracuse to capitalize and just put their foot on the throat of the Hoyas.
This offense as well has been unbelievable. You highlighted a couple of goals there, and of course it's headed by Joey Spallino, but Michael Leo had a great game as well against Georgetown recently. How important is this offense going to have to be for Syracuse down the stretch?
It's going to be the thing that motivates this team all year long, and that's the strength of this team. But to me, it's all headlined by, like you mentioned, Nico, it's all headlined by Michael Leo. Let's just show you what he's been doing as late. He tied his career high with 5 goals against Georgetown, but he does it from all over the field. Look at that celebration right there. He can move and just catch down. He go low to low on shots like that. He's such a versatile scorer for Syracuse. He can do it on the move as well. Bouncers going 5-hole. That's just something that no one else on the Syracuse team can do. Outrunning 2 people right here, finding your open spot, putting the icing on the cake right there. That's why Michael Leo is the most important person on this offense.
Okay, I think we all have to take a step back here and remember what gets Michael Leo all those reps on net, and that's Joey Spallina. I mean, he's the golden child of this team for a reason, and that's because not only can he score at will, he can facilitate in so many different ways. Take a look back at that Air Force game. 8 assists, and then just this last one against Georgetown had 4 of them on the day. And let's show you exactly what Spallina can do all over the place. Because again, he can find nylon whenever he wants. And right here, look at this. Inside roll off Ty Banks. That's a Tewaaraton watch lister, by the way. And then goes airborne for the score. Joey Spallina says he doesn't dodge like the normal people do nowadays. Well, he doesn't need to dodge with speed. He dodges with his body. And this is just another one from Joey Spallina that really shows he is the coordinator, the engineer of this offense. Everything runs through him, whether you see it or not.
And we know as well in prior years, Griffin and John, that Syracuse and Joey Spallina have been very strong both at home but also on the road. And particularly at home, Syracuse has performed a lot better than away from the Dome this year. 4-0 at home this season. In prior years against Duke, Syracuse is 6-1. And you got to believe a lot of that could be credited to, of course, that inside Dome environment, not having to deal with any weather or anything like that the rest of the way. And again, of course, they got that home crowd behind them, but Syracuse has been that dominant at home. So very good, strong records in the Dome. As far as on the road, things have been a little bit different for Syracuse so far. They are just 3-7 against Duke. Both of their losses this season came on the road as well. And so maybe the weather conditions, especially early in the season, as well as playing a part in that. And so for Syracuse, they're lucky that this game coming up against Duke on Saturday is in the Dome, where they've had a lot of success as of late. The last win in the Dome against Duke was 2024, so a couple of years ago. We'll see if Syracuse can repeat that. And another guy who has been stopping a lot of goals at home has been goaltender Jimmy McCool for Syracuse. And John, you got a little bit more about Jimmy McCool?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the guy has just been a shot blocker, a stopper, a rejecter, whatever words you want to use for Jimmy McCool. He's been the whole load of them throughout this season. I mean, it cannot be understated what a phenomenal piece of this team he has been. Just against Georgetown alone, tied season high 17 saves on that game. And the other time he had 17 was against number 3 Princeton. I mean, this squad was absolutely reliant on Jimmy McCool, not just in that game against Georgetown, but throughout this season. There have been so many different points where Jimmy McCool has come to play. Really, his only down games of the year have been the Colorado trip, and, well, he got bailed out by his offense in that one, which was bound to happen eventually. Jimmy McCool, I mean, you cannot understate what this guy has done for SU this season.
Yeah, and he's not going to have a great performance every single time out there, but you mentioned it's the big games where he shows up. Obviously, there's a great defense in front of him, but if he's going to show up in your biggest moments, that's what elevates this team to the next level. Is if you're going to show up when the lights shine brightest, you're going to go in there and make all sorts of saves. You're the last line of defense for a reason, and he's done a great job in these 2 years, but especially as of late, he's a big reason why this team can go a long way.
Well, those Dome lights are pretty darn bright, so we'll find out how he plays against a pretty solid Duke offense on Saturday, but we've got more Cuse countdown coverage of this game against Duke. We bring in our men's lacrosse reporter, Jake Klein, in studio. Welcome in, Jake. We'll see you in a second.
Welcome back to Cuse Countdown. We've got our men's lacrosse beat reporter Jake Klein joining us here in studio. Jake, how's the season going so far?
It's going well. I think for Syracuse men's lacrosse, got to be pretty happy with this start. Only 2 losses so far.
Yeah, exactly. 5 wins since those 2 losses as well. And I think a lot of that can be credited to the way that Riley Figueres has contributed to SU so far, coming off another co-defensive player of the week in the ACC. What has led to his success as of late?
Yeah, I think for Riley Figueres, it's going to be all about just continuing to do what he's done. And he's been such a great defenseman for Syracuse over the last couple of years. Look, the guy's a Tewaaraton watch lister for a reason. When you look on paper, I think the numbers are a little bit lower than people might expect. The caused turnovers, the ground balls are down from where they were at this point a year ago. I think of that more like a great defensive back in football, right? The interceptions go down and people freak out. Well, that's because nobody's throwing the ball his way, and I think Riley Figueres is very similar. Teams just don't test him a lot of the time because he is such a great cover guy for Syracuse. He gets the top matchup for the other team. I know Billy Dwan gets a lot of the love because he's the one who comes up with the turnovers, gets the ball, and pushes transition. But Riley Figueres is the one who gets the top matchup for Syracuse week in and week out. Expect that to be the same against Duke on Saturday.
And that'll be a home matchup as well for Syracuse against Duke. As for the way the team has played at home versus on the road, a lot of success at home, both against Duke and just in general in the Dome this season. What do you think has contributed to that so far?
Yeah, that's what it is. It's not just success against Duke. It's success against everybody at home, right? Syracuse is now 12-2 over the last 2 seasons at home, undefeated this season. It doesn't matter if you're Duke. It doesn't matter if you're Georgetown. It doesn't matter if you're Hobart or Maryland. It is hard to play in the Dome. Most of these venues that Syracuse goes to on the road hold only a couple of thousand people. I mean, you think back to that Denver game a couple of Mondays ago. That was the 2nd most attended game in the history of Denver men's lacrosse, and there were less than 3,000 people at Peter Barton Stadium. Meanwhile, the Dome gets 5, 6, 7,000 or more every single game. And so for a lot of these visiting teams that are used to playing in front of small crowds, John Danowski, the Duke coach, said earlier this week, sometimes it doesn't even feel like the Duke student body knows that they have a lacrosse team. So when those teams have to come into an environment like the Dome, the noise rattling around in there, plus a great Syracuse team that plays with such confidence on home turf, it is really tough for anybody, not just Duke, to come into the Dome.
Well, when you have students camping out before basketball games, I don't blame them.
Yep.
They know they got a good basketball team. As far as where Syracuse needs to maybe step it up a little bit or take an extra focus on for Saturday against Duke, what area are you pointing to in this game?
Yeah, my X factor, no pun intended, for the game on Saturday against Duke is going to be at the X, the face-off X, because John Mullen has not quite been his usual self this year for Syracuse. The numbers are certainly good for John Mullen. He is one of the best face-off men in the country. I think any opposing face-off man or coach would tell you that. But the numbers are down in the high 20s, low 30s in different categories for John Mullen. Cal Gerard, the Duke face-off man, has been fantastic. Nico documented it earlier. Duke has not played Murderer's Row by any stretch of the imagination. So I do think John Mullen presents the biggest test that Cal Gerard has seen at the face-off stripe this season. But I still think for John Mullen, who, again, has not been his usual self, Gary Gate has documented some of the mental struggles that he's gone through, sometimes anticipating the whistle and being called for a lot of face-off violations this year as compared to years past. He has to present a tough test for Syracuse to have success. Duke does have a good defense led by one of the best short stick D middies in the country in Aiden McGuire. And so the solution to that, Nico, is going to be for Syracuse to score goals, get back to the X.
And they've got just 4 games remaining after Duke if they can get that win. Let's say Syracuse does. Maybe they don't. We'll see. How does that set up the rest of the season as far as the limited amount of games left, as far as where Syracuse could set themselves up later?
It comes down to me to the way Syracuse has built this schedule. Very different than the way, as we've said, Duke has built its schedule. I think that if Syracuse beats Duke on Saturday, it clinches an at-large berth to the NCAA tournament. It's that simple. And Gary Gate has said it before. He said it to me earlier today. We build our schedule so that we don't even have to win a single game in conference play, and we can still make the NCAA tournament. Well, they probably didn't want to drop that Harvard game, but the only other loss is to a very highly ranked Princeton team. And so Syracuse, based on the success it's had in this non-conference schedule against so many great teams, doesn't really have a lot of work left to do for its NCAA tournament resume. This team knows that if it just wins 1, maybe 2 more games against these top-ranked opponents, it's pretty much into the NCAA tournament. And Nico, I think headed into conference play, especially because the ACC does not have an auto bid, remember? Right. I think that's a pretty good spot to be in if you're Syracuse.
Yeah, no doubt. We'll see how Syracuse performs the rest of the way. Jake Klein, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
All right, on the other side, we will break this thing down and get you set for Syracuse and Duke when we come back on Cuse Countdown.
Dad, they took over my bedroom. Come on, come on. Okay, Dad. 1, 2, 3. Dad! You saved me. Dad?
Are you okay?
I'm fine, dear.
Your hero needs you now, and AARP is here to help. Find the care guides you need at aarp.org/caregiving.
Welcome back to Cuse Countdown here inside our CitrusTV studio. I'm Nico Horning, and we got John Boccio, Griffin, Marcy joining us as well for a marquee matchup, if you will. And the first one comes between Ben Johnston and Jimmy McCool. John, who do you got winning this matchup on Saturday against Duke?
Well, you see the TV I'm in front of, and it kind of tells the whole story. This Blue Devils logo right around here, oh yeah. It's going to be Ben Johnston in this one. And Griffin, let me tell you exactly why. Look,
Please,
Ben Johnston's amazing. We know the whole story, blah, blah, blah. Ben Johnston's really good at lacrosse. But let me exactly show you why. So right here, we're going to start by telling you that Ben Johnston has a cannon. I mean, this guy has a rocket of a stick on his hands. Look at that, low to high stinger into the top right. You find him anywhere on the field, he can bury it. And that is going to be something that Jimmy McCool, quite simply, cannot handle. We have seen him consistently miss on certain plays where McCool really should have it, and, well, he just doesn't. And that's the way that it's going to go in this one, because Ben Johnston might be a Tewaaraton finalist right now, and I don't think Jimmy McCool is going to get that same kind of love, and there's a reason why.
Can't handle this, can't handle that. I don't care what John says. Jimmy McCool can handle everything. He is one of the best goalies in the country because he can stop shots up high, down low, to the side, left, right, whatever you need. He can do it all. Let me show you the clips right now. Look at this. Anytime you go up high in that top right corner, he goes down to the turf to grab that one. No matter what, this guy is a brick wall. A clear look. He goes down low that time. Again, there's one to the side. I mean, north, east, southwest, whatever you want. Jimmy McCool is unstoppable in net. There's nothing getting past him, and it sure isn't going to be a guy wearing number 19.
Well, you know, when Ben Johnston is aiming in this area, that's when Jimmy McCool's going to get stopped, because when you go to his leg, guess what? He doesn't have the hand speed to go like that, unfortunately. So Ben Johnston's going to be aiming at that 5-hole all day long. Somebody else who we've got on the other side of the studio, Nico Horning's going to take us to our next marquee matchup.
Yeah, we're doing this all day long in the studio. I don't know what's going on over here, John and Griffin. Oh, my goodness. All right, face-off fix. Syracuse has been good as of late. John Mullen has been pretty good. Who do you see taking that advantage here on Saturday?
I think that's pretty simple. It's going to be the guy that's been dominant for 2 years now. It's not going to be
just not this year, but it's okay.
Yeah, Calderon hasn't played anybody all year. It's going to be, this is the first time you got the real deal. Johnny Mullen is a machine. You want to dominate on the clamp? Once he gets it, he go downhill and score. Do whatever you want.
Yeah, that's if he doesn't go too early.
Yeah, well, you know what? He's going to get it on time this week.
Oh,
and
is
you're
he?
Going to see
magically
right
this week
even
he's
though
on
he
time.
goes, he gets it, even though he loses immediately, he digs it out there, and it goes out for Syracuse as a whole. This is a guy that consistently wins possessions for Syracuse. Cal Girard is not going to be ready for Syracuse and Johnny Mullen. Look at plays just like that, where he goes down, generates offense with those quick steals of the ball at the X, and goes immediately towards the rest of the field, gets that offense rolling quickly. Something Cal Girard is not going to be able to handle right away is the strength of John Mullen. And even once he gets it, he's still not just a get it, walk over to the side of the field, give it off to Spallina, hope for the rest. He gets it, he goes charges straight down. This guy is a fireball. He's looking down to score. Cal Girard has nothing on Johnny Mullen.
Cal Girard doesn't go down to score, Griffin says. Cal Girard can't handle the strength, Griffin says.
Yeah.
Well, who needs strength when you have the absolute speed of Cal Girard? I watched this guy on a high school field one time. Fastest guy I've ever seen. And this is legit Long Island High School lacrosse, where this guy was running laps around Owen Duffy, Michael Leo, the rest. Yeah, this guy runs circles around everyone.
Now.
Yeah, guess what?
We're
Johnny
not on
Mullen.
the island. We're in the dome.
All right, yeah, we might be in the dome, but guess what? Cal Girard is going to be running circles around Johnny Mullen because guess what? He's a technician at its finest. Look at that. Cal Girard gets all the way downfield in the matter of seconds, and you said he can't score. Well, I think that's a goal. I could be wrong. Wait, so we'll watch it again here. I want to make sure my analysis is correct. So yeah, he splits two defenders. They run into each other because they have no idea where he just went. Flash is already in the offensive zone. And then, oh wait, he just scored. Isn't that crazy? You said he can't do that? Well, that's really funny actually, because I think he just did it right there. It's, you know, it's a crazy concept to think that people are going to go past Jimmy McCool because, or rather, John Mullen, because guess what? He just doesn't have the speed to keep up with Cal Girard. The guy is a technician. It does not matter that his competition has not been ideal so far. Jimmy McCool has seen less than ideal competition, and once he's done, he's crumbled.
Yeah, and that's something that's been a real struggle for John Mullen at part times this season, but it doesn't matter. He's going to go out there and he's going to show up big time. Now, we're going to head over to Nico Horning for our next aspect of the marquee matchup.
All right, big picture, right? You look at Syracuse, who has found their stride as of late, 5 straight wins. You got Duke, who, as we highlighted earlier in the show, hasn't really played the validity of opponents as of late so far this season. This would be a big win for Duke against Syracuse, but guys, who do you have as far as who needs this win more? Who can make more of a statement?
Well, I think this one is fairly close, to be completely honest. Syracuse, if they grab a win, they'll climb even higher in the rankings. But I think the main issue for Syracuse is that if they do win this game, then it's just going to be a, oh, is Duke not that good type of question. I don't think it's going to be a, oh, Syracuse is legit because they beat Duke, who's 8-0, while beating just one top 15 team. That's why I think Duke is definitely going to be rising higher this time around. I mean, you look at all of the teams' RPI, which it has played multiple teams in the 30s, Vermont in the 50s, I mean, Providence in the low 40s. Those are the type of schedules where they set you up, quite simply, for failure. Because if you lose big games, then you don't really have much of a resume to fall back on, which is why if Duke does win this game, that is a resume booster at its finest. And Jake talked earlier about how if Syracuse wins this one, it might guarantee them an auto bid at large, at least, to the NCAA tournament. Well, I think that might just do the same for Duke because while it hasn't done a lot, it has done enough to get by in the in the regular season to set themselves up for conference and NCAA tournament play.
Well, John, I think you don't have enough respect for the body of work the Blue Devils have done so far this season. This is a Duke team that is solid and is going to give Syracuse that first top-end win of the season. You look at this right now, you know, John Hopkins was a really good win against in that 6th and top 10 of the RPI. Maryland was supposed to be the crown jewel of the schedule, that big win, and they've just kind of fallen off. So when you see how they've done in the start of the season against 2 of their biggest games, they don't really have that top-tier marquee win. And I believe that Duke can be that for this Syracuse team in their resume, and I think they will be. That's why I think Syracuse may not go super higher in the rankings, but it's going to give them more of a national respect.
A team
overall.
That's lower in the RPI than Johns Hopkins is going to be the marquee win over Hopkins?
Yes, I think this team is just a bit overall stronger than Hopkins. It doesn't all, the analytics don't matter. This is out there playing on the field.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay, I guess. Yeah.
It's all about on the field. Analytics nerds are taking over sports, and it's ruining everything.
You know what? It is all the nerds. It's all the nerds.
It is, just like you. John is,
come on. You're the one that wears glasses here.
But that's a great point. And we'll have some more great points when we come back right after this break where we wrap up shop here on Cuse Countdown. I hope...
Wrapping up shop here on Cuse Countdown. Nico Horning here with John Boccio and Griffin Marcy. And this is a big game coming up for both teams, Syracuse and Duke, if they can get a win, neck and neck, of course, in the rankings. And speaking of those inside lacrosse rankings that we'll show you right now, it is neck and neck between Syracuse and Duke. You can see that 5 and 6 spot. Guys, if Syracuse can get this win, you'd think that'd be a big lock to set them up for the rest of the season.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, it might jump North Carolina if it wins this game. Probably still won't creep into the top 3 once again because Duke's strength of schedule has been so poor in the non-conference play. And that's why if Syracuse wins this game, the most that it really jumps is likely 1 spot, if that. But for Duke, this could be a massive one. If it takes down SU, it might jump into the top 3 on its own.
I'm not overly worried about how far they jump, high or low. I just look at that rankings and just see all these teams that Syracuse has played all year are going to play. Yeah. You still have to play the number 1 and number 4 team in the country in the next couple weeks. Plus, you've already lost to that good Harvard team. You've had to square off against Princeton. You had to square off against Hopkins and Maryland. That stuff is real competition, and that you've already had to play this year and going through the rest of the year. That's what kind of sticks out to me about that schedule. They've done a really good job of testing themselves throughout the year so far.
Not many games left, 5 including the one against Duke on Saturday. They do play North Carolina coming up, and that could be another really tough game for Syracuse. You've got to think if they can get one of these wins against either Duke or North Carolina, they'll be set up for success the rest of the way.
If the Orange knock off the Tar Heels, I mean, it is very well possible that they jump right back into the top 3. They're creeping towards that number 1 spot, especially if Richmond wins against Notre Dame. That is going to be an ACC destroyer at its finest, but there are a bunch of other good contests going on. Richmond doesn't have to play Notre Dame just yet. Georgetown and Denver, I think, is one that people really have to look out for because of how both of these teams, both SU and Duke, would be affected by that game. The RPI could shoot up or down based on how bad that loss is.
I like it, the nice Big Ten clash out there in Columbus. I think that'll be a really physical game, and that's going to really set the tone in the conference standings out there in the Big Ten for sure.
Penn State did just knock off Maryland last week. Crazy win.
All right, last thing for the Syracuse and Duke matchup coming up. Keys of the game. John, what do you got as far as what Syracuse needs to do to take care of business?
Well, I talked about it briefly earlier with how well this offense has played historically, and that's why my key to the game is get out and running. Your offense needs to click as much as possible in this one for you to come out with a big-time win, and that's why when your offense clicks, it means it is going fast.
And I think what's going to see what stick out to me is last year when Syracuse went on the road to Duke, they were outmuscled from start to finish, and they corrected that issue in the ACC tournament, and it was really nice to see and allowed them to move forward. But that's why you need to be the tougher team in this game. You need to establish the dominance and the physicality and be the tougher team from start to finish.
All right, so that leads us to who is going to win this game. I think it's going to be pretty close. I'm going to go Syracuse 13-11. John, what are you rolling with in this one?
I think it's going to be really close as well. I'm going to say 10-8 Cuse, just because I think the dome advantage is too much.
I think it's going to be pretty close as well, but not as close as these guys. Give me Syracuse 12-7. I think Duke just not quite as good as Syracuse on all 4 sides of the field. But you know what else is more important than anything is this is Nico Horning's final show on CitrusTV. He's headed to Peoria, Illinois next week, and boy, are we going to miss the great Nico. Whether he's taking a nap in the studio, in his apartment, in this beanbag chair his roommates hate, just Nico has been a real pleasure to be around in this station for the past 4 years, and one of my best friends. I'm sad to see him leave.
Yeah, Nico, it's tough, man. It's really, really tough, but you deserve all this.
Well, I appreciate it. Some interesting photo selections in here, I got to admit. I'm sleeping on the couch. I don't know why. I will plug a social media account that I do not run. It's Nico Naps Official. I do not nap, though. I actually doze off past 10 p.m.
Some great
it happens quite often.
John
this time was in between my legs. Yeah, that was an interesting shout, but I wouldn't want anyone else there.
John featured Dom DiTomaso, Ryan Randoni, 2 CitrusTV legends all over the field. The great mustache of Jish Sokolsky.
Oh, yeah.
You got everybody.
Friends and family that will be with me the rest of the way. Thanks to everyone for your support. This has been awesome, guys.
Absolutely.
All right, with John Boccio, Griffin Marcy, I'm Nico Horning for one last time here on CitrusTV. Thanks for joining us.